Hey, this is Mark with Magnolia Oaks Wood Shop. I own a woodworking, laser engraving, personalized gift business where we serve both people and businesses. And today I'm going to be showing you a complete walkthrough of the xTool XCS software suite and showing you exactly how to get started if maybe you've never used a laser engraver before, or maybe you're coming over from the Lightburn software, or maybe it's your first time having an xTool laser. And as we know, the XCS software has improved tremendously over the last few years and gives you additional abilities with your xTool lasers that you just can't get with the Lightburn software. It's built in. So, for example, curved engraving, some of the conveyor belt feeding features, there, of course, rotary, things like that. So I'm going to show you exactly what you need to know to quickly get started with the software, find out exactly where everything is in the software, how to get started with your first project, how to select your machine, and some important things that you need to know to be able to make the best engravings on your particular material. So with that, we'll go into my computer and I'll see you there. And today I'm going to be doing a super simple quick start guide on using the xTool XCS software for your new xTool laser. So if you've never used laser engravers before, you've never had an xTool laser, the XCS software is by far the best software for you to use starting out. Lightburn is the industry standard. However, the XCS Creative Suite software gives you those extra abilities that you're looking for as far as using the conveyor belt, using the pass-through slot, being able to do curved engraving. So this is definitely what you want to use with any xTool laser, and it's very simple to use. It's very graphical. I'm going to make it super easy for you to get started. So I'm not going to show you how to download the software because all you need to do is just search for xTool XCS software download and download the latest version, install it just like anything else. When you install it, you'll come to this main page right here, which will show you some of your previous projects and then some of the things from their design gallery. So you can actually go through and open any of these pre-loaded projects submitted by other users, and you can actually make those very easily. Now, one thing that I do want to point out is even though these note certain machines, for the most part, you can use any of these projects on any of your machines. There are some exceptions with, using F1 and F1 Ultra, as those are fiber type lasers that will engrave on metals where some of the other ones may not. But for the most part, you don't have to worry about that. And these are just guidelines to let you know what the original user, what type of machine they used in creating this project. So, for example, you can also, do a new project right here or open from your computer. But let's just get started. Let's just open one of these and you can see kind of what it looks like. And again, this is their internal design area. So there's a lot of different options. It gives you a little more information about it. This tells you what they actually use to create this and what the settings are. So you can change all that. But if you have this exact machine, then there should be certain settings predefined that will make it a lot easier for you to know where to start from. It also tells you the materials that they use right here, and you can buy many of these materials directly from xTool. However, you'll find as you get a little more advanced, you'll want to look around because there are a lot of different providers for materials. Some are better quality, some are worse. You'll look in the forums and the Facebook groups to see what everyone is using, and I would start off with that. But you can see this is a beginner difficulty level, and if you're just looking to get started and test things out, this is a good, a good place to come. You don't have to do this particular project, but find something you like and try it. So what we'll do just to get started is I'm going to open this in XCS, and what you'll find is it opens up the project, but it's set up for the M1. I actually don't have an M1 here. I have a P2, which is a CO2 laser, 55 watt. I have an S1, and then I have a F1. So regardless of what type of laser that you'll have, I'm going to give you the basics of using XCS. Each one of these will have slightly different abilities, and some of the screens might be a little bit different. However, generally speaking, you'll be able to do most all of these things for all of your lasers. But the most important thing that you want to do is you want to connect to whatever laser that you're working on, and it doesn't have to be on, but I'm going to select the P2, and you can see right here it's not connected because I don't have it turned on in the other room. But to get started, I just want to show you around the interface. So this is your canvas right here, and it will be set up for the default size of your bed. So for the P2, that's about 12 inches by I think about 21 inches, something like that. This over here is basically where you'll give all of your parameters for what you want to do. So with laser engravers, there's a few things that you can alter. Number one, you can choose either to score, which is basically a light line. It's much quicker, but it's not as deep and it's not as dark typically. You can engrave, which is what we do most of the time, and I engrave basically 100% on wood, and so I use engraving. And then you can use the last one is cut. So cut is for, cutting out the perimeter of products or whatever it might be, and that's going to be at a higher power typically and much slower. So as you're thinking through how everything works together, let's just say that we're going to engrave something. So you'll have a few different settings. So if we click right here on engrave, you can see we have power, speed, pass, and lines per inch. So the easy way to understand this is the higher the power, the darker that the engrave will be. And so you want to balance that out. You don't want to use too much power where you're burning it and there's a lot of soot. And then speed is how fast that the laser is moving. So the faster, typically that's done for lower quality, more broader designs. The lower speed allows you to have a little more detail. However, again, there's negatives with that you may actually be too slow and it might be burning up the piece or creating issues that you don't want. So there's a delicate balance between power and speed, and many of these issues have already been solved for your particular machine, and you can look in the Facebook groups and ask them what they use. So basically every material you have to do a test called a materials test to figure out for your machine, for that material that you have, what power and speed settings work best to give you the desired output. So also up here, this is where you choose whether or not something will be engraved at a time or not. So you can have several projects on the same board, but you can just highlight this and choose just to do that one, or you can choose not to do that one. So whatever is selected as output is actually going to be engraved. So you want to keep that in mind as you're going through, depending on how you organize your layout right here. That's the key thing that turns on and turns off what will be printed. Okay, so let's look back on the engrave, and you can see that power is set to 10, speed is set to 200, so the power will go all the way up to 100, speed will go all the way up to 600, and I've never used it at actually 600 because I don't have scenarios where that works for me. I usually do it around up to 150 is typically as high as I get. And power, the only time I use 100 power is when I'm cutting something and I might speed the speed down to 4 or 6, something like that. Pass is the number of times it will do this action. So it'll go through the entire design once, and then if it's set to 2 right here, it'll go through it again. So this would be an example where you don't want it too hot to where it's too much for one pass. So you can do multiple layers to get a darker effect, typically is what that's done for. Now lines per centimeter, as it's set up currently, is basically, think of it as the depth. So if you have something that you want more deeper engrave into the material, then you would set this to a higher number right here. And this is, again, I'm talking about primarily for the CO2 laser, the S1, that kind of thing. On the F1, it may be used for different things, but just think of that. I always basically leave this as default unless I'm using my F1 fiber laser, and it works fine. As far as engraving mode, I always leave it to bidirectional. You can look on some of the forums to see why you would possibly use unidirectional, but for the most part, you just leave that as is. Okay, so this is the right side. Also, this is where you connect to the machine. If you have multiple machines, you'll choose that here, and then you can look in here for the connection if you need to set it up, and then there's the user guide right there. Okay, also when you get a particular setup that you like, you can save it right here as a new setting, and that way you can say 3mm bamboo wood, and you can save it so you can reuse it and you don't have to remember it, which is very handy. Also over here is obviously the process button. So this will take you to a screen to show you exactly what will be engraved, and then you can choose to proceed or not with that. Okay. Also over here is the type of material that you're using, and most of the time I just manually set all this stuff up. Now looking up here on the top, we'll go through a few of the different options. So this is the page that you're on. Here's a menu right here. This is your save button. This is undo, redo. Canvas is a concept where you can have one file open, but you can have multiple canvases. So it allows you to, if you have operation that's sequential, so you have like multiple things that need to be done on the same project, or even different projects. It doesn't matter. It's just a way of better organizing things together. So if you click right here, you can see this is Canvas 1. We can have Canvas 2 with a completely different design or a different portion of that design. And that just helps you to better organize the different steps that you need to go through. Because on this canvas, you might have, the bottom part to this that just needs to be cut out. And so you can have your settings set up and everything for cut. This one can be set up for engraving and so forth. So it's just a handy way to organize different things in one file, because XCS currently only allows you to have 6 open tabs or 6 open projects for some reason. Hopefully that changes in the future, but for now that's how it is. Okay, this is very important up here. Now, if you're cutting or engraving thin material, so under typically 1.5 inches, then you'll use this process on slats. And that's basically just, you can see it vertically, it's just leaving either your honeycomb or your slat in and engraving on top of that. If you have something deeper than that, where you have to remove the slats and place them on the tray below, you'll choose the slats removed, okay? Then you have your other settings as well for the rollers, the chucks, conveyor feeder, curved material. This is for the screen print, and this is for the honeycomb panel. So if you have the honeycomb in there, and it helps it to auto adjust to where the thickness should be for that material. Now on the P2 and the P2S, we do have a camera available to us. And so I find that to be extremely, extremely handy. Some people don't use it at all. I use it constantly, and it's very well integrated into the interface here. So if you go right here, I don't have anything in there currently, but you'll click on there and do refresh background. It will show you what's in your actual bed. Then close shot. For the P2 and P2S, again, this will only take effect for those because those are the only 2 currently that have cameras built in. And so that will allow you to really align your design onto the product. So that's extremely helpful. That's my most used feature. This is where you can check the thickness or manually add it. And this is where you can do a aim to measure. So you click this and you'll select the object, and it will try to guess basically what the thickness is. And it's pretty good, but I find that it goes down a little too much. So I usually back it off a little bit to defocus it, just to make sure that it doesn't hit the object. Okay, and then so what we'll do next is go over here to this menu over here, and a few things just to keep in mind. This right here is your layer and object list. I honestly never use this. This is relatively new, but it may be helpful in being able to, if you really get down to wanting to, create your design in different layers. Like you would do in Photoshop or something like that, you can refer to that here, and that's a good way of being able to select exactly what you want to select. Okay, I don't use that, but some people I'm sure do. Down here is the actual layer selection. I don't have it in the window, but basically you can select an item and move it to a different layer. This doesn't have any effect on what processes are done. Like red does, you can't set up red to be always cut, 100%, 5%, 5 speed, that kind of thing. It's just for you to be able to visually see what items are grouped together. Okay, so you can confirm that before moving, but it does not affect anything related to, red. You can't set up red for cutting, blue for engraving, green for scoring, or whatever it might be. So it's just for visually being able to see what's going on. The hand right here allows you to move the canvas around, so that's very helpful in many cases. Also down here is the zoom in, zoom out, fit the screen, fit the height, that kind of thing. Let's do fit on screen. And then this right here, the selection is what you'll use typically. You can select something, move it around, that kind of thing. Okay. Up here, starting at the top, will be you have the import image. So let's import an image. I'm just going to show you an example of how this would work. So let's just say that we have this monogram. I'm going to delete all this. Okay, and I created this on Canvas. So if you'd like to see a a video on how to really expand your design capabilities using Canva in some very simple ways, let me know in the comments and I'll be glad to make that video for you, because I use Canva every single day. And if you have a business where you're making designs or products for customers, you definitely need to check out Canva. It's awesome. Much better than even Photoshop for most people. So right here, the first thing that you'll need to know is when you import an image, so let's say this is a PNG or a JPEG or whatever it might be. This one happens to be a transparent background, which you can do with Canva's paid plan. But if it doesn't have a clear transparent background, you can also import images with white backgrounds. Just sometimes it might mess up the trace, might not be as clean. Basically, what you need to do is you need to convert this into a vector image. And a vector image, this is what's called a bitmap image. A vector image is basically used in laser engraving because it allows you to get very clean lines. It converts it to a file format where you can basically increase the size or decrease the size infinitely without loss of quality. And it's just a wonderful file type. It'll give you crisp edges and it makes it easier to engrave. So right here, this comes in and you can engrave this, but you don't really want to. You want to do what's called trace. And I just usually leave all these as default. The higher the quality image, so the larger in pixels and DPI, the better quality trace that you'll get. But for letters, you're usually pretty good. So it looks like nothing's been done, but if you pull this off, you can see that's the trace that was just done. So at this point, we don't need this. So we delete that, and you can see this is very big, but it's set up by default to score, okay? So what we want to do for this example, I'll just show you, is we can change it to engrave. And I wanted to note this as being engraved, so I change it to blue, just personal. I also want to change the size of this, so maybe I want to change this to 2.9 inches, and I have mine set up to inches. You can set it up as metric as well. One thing to keep in mind is this is proportional, so if I change this to 2.9, the proportional size and height is 2.832. Now say for example I want this to be both of these 2.9. You can turn off the aspect ratio right here and just change that to 2.9. It may distort it some, however that might be what you want. So anyway, just something to keep in mind. This is where you do all that. X and Y you really don't get into a whole lot because that's the position of the image in the canvas, unless you're doing jigs and things like that where you're cutting out or engraving many things at once in some sort of a jig. Okay. Next we want to look at some of these other objects. So this is where you import images. You can add your text right here. Let's just say, let's turn off this layer, turn on text. Okay, so we have some text added here, and they do give the ability to select varying different fonts. They're listed on your computer, and you can see over here again, every object that comes on here is either set to score, engrave, or cut. Engrave is what we use the most. So I'm engraving. This can be a different setting for engraving than this. You just have to set this. Notice they're both blue as we set down here. It's just visual, the colors. But if you want this to be 10, 200, 100, and then this to be 20, 100, then you can do that. And if you want to change the color of this to let you know that it engraves at a different rate, that's fine, you can do that. Okay, another feature of this is you can do all your alignment. So right here you'll see align left, center. Usually I'll just use center, and that aligns it. Okay. Right here you can also do the layers. You can bring one particular layer in front of another, one backward, and so forth. Here are all your alignment. These are your unite, subtract, overlap, and united overlap. These are a little more advanced. You won't use it very often. And then this right here is you can reflect it horizontally. If you want to flip it around, don't do that often unless you're using mirrors or something like that. Okay, and so that is the basic design. The next thing that I want to show you is line, rectangle, and circle, which you won't use much. However, every single material that you use, you want to do a materials test card. And I'll show you how to do this very simply. First of all, you need to get a rectangle, and you need to make one on your page. Okay, And you want to set this to, let's just say we set it to 0.5 by 0.5, okay? And what this is going to do, we have the ability to create one of these test cards, which will allow us, it will automatically test a variation of different power and speed settings, and it will actually run that so you can see which one looks how you want to look. So some won't be dark at all, some will be way too dark, some will burn to a crisp, and some, you'll be able to see physically on that material what that actual engrave is going to look like before you do your actual engrave on your material. So you need to do this on each one, and over time you'll build up a database of different materials test cards, so you don't have to worry about which one, how the engraving will turn out, because you can already see that. So first step is to make a rectangle. You can do this in any size, but I'm just doing it 0.5 by 0.5. Let's change this. Okay. Next, we want to choose what we want to test. So typically we're going to be testing engraves. Okay. So you'll test that. Then you'll go over here into applications and materials test array. Okay. So in this point, you're basically giving it a range of which you want to test. So you give the min power, the max power, the min speed, and the max speed, and the number of rows and columns, which will allow you to test more than less. You usually don't need many more than 5 columns or rows. You're going to be able to ballpark what works best for you. So usually you're not going to go start at 10 and go up to 100. You might start somewhere like, I don't know, 25, but you can start at 10. And let's start, we know that a 10 speed is going to be way too slow because it's going to burn up the wood, for example. So let's just start, let's say at 50. And you can set this up however you want. You can leave it as a default if you want. Also, you can play around with the spacing between the rows and the columns as well. So what we're going to do is we're just going to select, let's just go back to the default. And we'll click done. So what this has done is created a test card that will test each of these scenarios. Let me zoom in a little bit. So you can see speed is up here, power is down here, and it tells you what machine this is being done for. So you can do this, you'll have to do this on each of your different machines, but for the most part it's going to be pretty close. Okay, so you don't really have to worry about that a lot. So what I'm going to do is, again, this is the speed from slowest to fastest. This is the power from slowest to fast, or lowest to highest. So if you look right here, this cell would represent 600 speed and 100 power. Okay, so if you select this and ungroup it, you'll be able to see this over here. So look, right there, here, you look, power 100, speed 600. Let's look right here. Power 10, speed 158. Okay, so each of these is set up differently, and the laser will engrave those differently. This one's 55 power and 305 speed. Okay, so it's a great way to be able to see exactly what works for your machine for that particular material in all the different settings. And then you look at that as it's printed, and you can define what you want to set your actual production piece for your customer to. So anyway, that's probably something that you'll do more often than not. Okay. Most of the other items here are nice to have, but you won't use them that much. For example, you'll use text a lot. You use rectangles or circles probably. This is for vectors. I've never used that. Here's shapes. It's very, very basic shapes. Like if you need a heart, for example, click it over here and engrave it, and then you can resize it. It's handy for things like that, but I honestly don't use it too much. It has some very, very basic shapes. Right here, grid array allows you to create a grid array. So it doesn't have to, it's very similar to this right here. It's actually exactly like this, only it just handles the shape. It doesn't deal with any other engraves or anything. So for example, if we want to do select that and do a grid array of 6 columns and 6 rows, this is what it would look like. Okay, and then you could select that and engrave it, whatever you might want to do. Okay, next will be you have code generation. You can generate a barcode and have it be able to be scanned and take you to a website or whatever it might be. This is batch fill. I've never used this really. This right here is Again, another way to get into the design area where you can select one that you want to engrave and open in XCS. So that's another way. You close it up here. And then this AI area, let's see, let's go back. And then this is the AI area, and it will allow you to create AI-based designs or open ones that have already been done. These require more processing power, more time, different materials, but that is there if that's something that you want to do. For the most part, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be importing your own design and setting up the engraving or scoring settings, and then that's going to be it. So hopefully this was a good overview of the XCS software, how to use it, how to get started. It gives you all the information that you need to be able to use your machine exactly today. So I'm always glad to help. If you have any questions, be sure and just leave them down in the comments. I appreciate you. If you're interested in this type of content, please consider subscribing to the page. And I appreciate you very much, and I hope you have a blessed day.